We humans love stories of lone wanderers, be they traveling, minstrels, or anti-heroes on the run. And there may be a whole fleet of lone wanderers drifting through the cosmos. Meet the free-floating worlds that exist without stars. These enigmatic planets may not have a home, but they sure have a story to tell. Here's what we know and what we hope to learn about these ghostly giants. If you've ever had the opportunity to gaze up at the night sky, it probably didn't take you long to notice something strange. No matter where you look, there seems to be nothing but an inky black void sprinkled with countless pinpricks of light. That might seem unremarkable, but remember this. Each of those points of light represents a massive ball of burning plasma so large that over 1 million Earths could fit inside it. And if all those stars seem impossibly far away, consider this: the nearest star to our Sun, Alpha Centauri, is over 4 light years away. It would take a spacecraft traveling at the speed of Voyager 1, the most distant craft humanity has ever sent into space, over 20,000 years to reach it. In other words, space is truly mind-bogglingly big. It's also lonely out there. There's no disputing that if you happen to be a planet, because out among the stars, there are plenty of planets that just don't seem to have any stars to call home. And we're not talking about exoplanets that orbit dim red dwarfs too cool to support life, or planets orbiting neutron stars or black holes where the very concept of life seems absurd. We're talking about giant, rocky worlds much like Earth that appear to be drifting through the galaxy all on their own. Like most astronomical oddities, these lonely planets were first noticed by accident. Back in 2012, a pair of astronomers were scanning the skies when they spotted a nearby star system hosting what looked like 5 planets, which was odd. After all, the star in question, like our Sun, is relatively small and dim. The kind of star that astronomers expect to host maybe 2 or 3 planets at most. But before they could make sense of the unexpected, the researchers realized they had stumbled onto something even stranger. One of the bodies in the system wasn't orbiting the star at all. It was too far away. Since then, astronomers have discovered many more rogue planets, sometimes called free-floating planets, which means that some planets simply don't belong to any star system. And while astronomers still have a lot to learn about these cosmic drifters, the evidence suggests that they have been flung to the far reaches of space for billions of years, silently sailing through the darkness, stuck in perpetual twilight, subject to unimaginable cold and radiation. But how do planets get lost in the first place? You don't have to look far back in history to find a good story of planetary wanderlust. Look no further than our own solar system. Astronomers believe that all of the objects in our planetary system, from the largest gas giants to the tiniest pebbles, formed from a massive cloud of spinning dust and gas known as a protoplanetary disk. The inner regions of this disk were hot enough for rock and metal to melt and form the cores of planets, while the outer reaches were chilly enough for ices to condense and mix with rock to create icy planetesimals. As the young protoplanets grew, they moved through the swirling disk like bumper cars at an insane asylum. Eventually, one protoplanet got too close to the scorching center of the disk, and its gravity pulled it toward the Sun. Today, that planet is Mercury. Meanwhile, something big must have whacked poor little Mercury on the side, because over billions of years, gravitational nudges have flung several objects out of the solar system. Some became lost forever, while others swing around the Sun in long elliptical orbits that take them farther out into deep space than Pluto ever dared to dream. Scientists think something similar happened somewhere else in the galaxy. Somewhere that a rogue planet was ejected from its home system, or perhaps even born directly in the wild expanse of interstellar space. In other words, rather than being kicked out of a family, it may have formed on its own in a wild cosmic nursery known as a protoplanetary disk. These are just two ways that a planet can go rogue, but both scenarios are supported by recent observations and theoretical models. For example, astronomers recently used computer simulations to show that during the formation of a planetary system, a big Jupiter-like planet can easily kick another planet out of its orbital path. In fact, the team estimated that such a gravitational slingshot happens once every 100 million years, often enough to explain the number of rogue planets that we see today. What's more, models suggest that instead of being flung to the far reaches of their home system, rogue planets may actually be ejected out into deep space where they roam the galaxy in solitude. There is also evidence that some rogue planets could have formed directly within giant molecular clouds before their planetary systems even formed. Either way, once a planet goes rogue, it's pretty much on its own. Astronomers can spot these lonely worlds using one technique known as gravitational microlensing. This works by measuring the brief brightening of a star's light when a rogue planet passes between us and that star. Gravity distorts the light from objects in space in a predictable way, making the object appear larger than it actually is. By looking for a sudden change in brightness, astronomers can estimate the mass of the rogue planet by calculating how much gravity it would need to bend light in that way. Using this technique, scientists estimate there could be as many as 50 billion rogue planets scattered throughout the Milky Way. Unfortunately, these dim, distant objects are notoriously difficult to observe. So we still don't know what they're made of or whether or not they have an atmosphere. We can't even see most of them directly. However, there is one way to peer into the guts of a rogue planet without seeing a thing. In 2019, researchers proposed a radical idea. They suggested that some rogue planets could harbor secret oceans beneath their frozen surfaces. This is a controversial idea, but it's grounded in science. Rogue planets range in size from smaller than Earth to larger than Jupiter, but let's focus on the rocky worlds that could harbor life. Even after getting booted from their home system, these planets would still carry some heat inside their cores. Thanks to the remnants of radioactive elements like uranium, thorium, and potassium, which decay over billions of years. If the planet is just the right size, that heat could be enough to keep the inside of the planet molten and create a subsurface ocean. As long as there's liquid water on the planet's surface, there's a chance that life could thrive. That's because while life on Earth depends on our sun, life on these rogue planets would be independent of any star, which means that we should expand our search for life beyond the confines of the habitable zone. In other words, if you want to find life in the universe, don't always follow the sunshine. Now, that's not to say that life could definitely flourish in such extreme conditions. In fact, we already know that weird life forms known as extremophiles thrive in some of the harshest environments here on Earth, from boiling hot springs to frigid glaciers. so it is possible that extremophile life could survive. The intense cold and pressure found deep under the ice of a rogue planet's crust. If that's the case, a rogue planet's subsurface ocean could be teeming with life. And it's not like it would be the first time life arose in isolation. Here on Earth, life arose independently and multiple times. So it's entirely possible that if there are lots of rogue planets out there, life could have taken hold in several places. Sadly, there aren't any current missions searching for life on rogue planets. They are so dim and distant that studying them is quite a challenge. But NASA's upcoming Nancy Grace Romang Space Telescope is expected to discover thousands of rogue planets. This will give astronomers unprecedented opportunities to characterize these free-floating worlds and hunt for signs of life. After all, it's not every day that you stumble across a mysterious new world, let alone one that could be teeming with alien life. That's why many astronomers are excited about the future of rogue planet research. Even if these worlds are too far away and too cold for people to live on, they can teach us a lot about the formation of planetary systems and the dynamics of our galaxy. Plus, who knows, maybe one day we'll find a way to harness the geothermal heat powering their hidden oceans. Then we can turn the tables on these lost planets and find our own way to them.